The Civil War was fought over slavery and states' rights, which lasted from 1861 to 1865 and resulted in many casualties. Civil War swords and letters were displayed on today's show as symbols of reconciliation.
It's still here, and it's nice to be able to see two individuals who, in one moment, are trying to kill each other.
That's right.
These artifacts show acts of humanity during the cruelty of war. The guest's great-grandfather served as a captain in the Confederacy during the American Civil War.
A number of Union soldiers, and he was shot at multiple times. If you can see, there's a hole where the musket ball went through the guard and hit him in the hand, but he was able to capture the force of Michigan sharpshooters.
He kept two swords, his own and one from a Union captain he captured during the Battle of Petersburg in 1864. The story took a surprising turn when the two captains, despite being enemies, showed kindness to each other.
And they started talking, and the Michigan captain helped him clean his hand in that wound. They went down to the river. The captain said, I haven't taken a bath in a month.
Years later, the guest's grandfather wrote to the Union captain, offering to return his sword, and the Union captain responded with a letter.
And in 1888, many years later, he got a reply from this captain who said, I remember you and your courteous treatment the night of the 17th of June, 1864.
The Union captain's sword is a German-made European sword. The guest's great-grandfather's sword is a standard U.S. model, 1850-foot officer's sword,
which was not unusual for Confederate officers to be carrying.
We can also see the sword belt, along with a Confederate spoon and wreath buckle made in New Orleans.
It's a somewhat rare example. Obviously, if you are the descendant of an enslaved person, those letters, CS, mean something entirely different.
These artifacts tell a touching story of reconciliation, documented beautifully in these letters, but unfortunately we don't have the originals.
Who did this transcription for you?
The transcription is my great-grandfather's surviving daughter at the time, and so this is shortly near his death, and she was putting together all his remembrances from original letters that, as you say, don't exist anymore.
The story attached to these items reflects humanity amid war and the power of reconciliation.
And really what it comes down to is being able to see each other as human beings.
The retail value of these Civil War artifacts, kept in good condition with such rich history, would be...
Retail value for this group as presented here today would be between $20,000 and $25,000.
That's surprising, but great. I mean, we aren't looking, obviously, to part with it, but that's good to know.
Our guest presented a Civil War cavalry officer's sword, which they inherited from their grandmother in 2010. This sword belonged to Gustavus Stanley, an officer who served in 3 different regiments, including the 2nd Maine Cavalry, before it was passed down through the family. The appraiser identified it as a presentation saber, gifted to Stanley by the men of Company F.
The men of Company F, 2nd Maine Cavalry. Yeah. He's in Illinois. He joins the 8th Illinois.
Stanley had a history of being captured during the Civil War, first by Confederate General Lee's men in 1862.
There was a system of parole, where essentially you would swear to go home, behave yourself, don't take part in military activities.
Despite these setbacks, Stanley returned to military service, eventually leading him to the 2nd Maine Cavalry in 1863. The sword itself features an intricate acid-etched blade with a Federal Eagle design and a maker's mark from Klauberg, a renowned German sword maker from Solingen. Praised for its excellent condition, the appraiser valued the sword to be at...
A retail price for this sword would be between $8,000 and $10,000.
Oh, wow.
Our guest was thrilled to learn the value of the sword, which reflected Stanley's significant yet eventful Civil War service. Our guest brought a painting from Japan, acquired in the 1800s by his great-aunt, an amateur painter who studied art in Japan. While traveling in Japan, she collected items she loved, including this artwork, which has been in the family ever since. The appraiser identified the artist as Atomi Gyokushi, a rare female painter from Japan born in 1859.
She was very good at drawing cherry blossoms.
The artwork depicts a serene nighttime scene with cherry blossoms in full bloom, a large moon, and
you can see this wonderful owl.
This painting is done on fine silk using ink and vegetable pigments, showcasing traditional Japanese techniques. Gyokushi studied at the famous Shijo painting school in Kyoto, and this work likely dates back to when she was in her 20s, around the 1880s. The appraiser praised the painting's size and beauty, highlighting the skill and care that went into its creation. This painting was valued for insurance purposes at...
You should insure it for 6,000.
6,000?
Insurance, yes.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
A breathtaking exemplar of indigenous artistry takes center stage, showcasing intricate craftsmanship and deep cultural significance. The guest inherited this treasured piece from his mother just a few years ago, but the fascinating story of its origins remained unknown to him.
She was from Oklahoma.
Okay.
And I'm assuming this would be from Oklahoma.
Surprisingly, the true origins of this piece lie with the Kiowa people of the southwestern plains. In the sweeping vastness of the American Great Plains, a resilient people once roamed, their spirits as unbridled as the wild mustangs they rode. The Kiowa, meaning principal people, were a proud and fierce nation, forged in the fires of nomadic life and tempered by the harsh beauty of the open range. Their story began centuries ago, in the Rocky Mountains, where they emerged as skilled hunters and gatherers. Driven by their insatiable quest for adventure and new horizons, they migrated southward, their warrior culture and horsemanship skills honed to perfection. As masters of the plains, the Kiowa formed alliances with the Comanche and Apache, their combined strength a force to be reckoned with. Their legendary leaders, Satanta, Lone Wolf, and Stumbling Bear, left an indelible mark on history, their bravery and strategic prowess inspiring awe. Yet the Kiowa were more than warriors. They were artisans, weaving intricate beadwork and leatherwork, and storytellers, passing down tales of their ancestors through generations. Their Sundance ceremonies, filled with ritual and splendor, celebrated life's sacred balance, but the winds of change howled across the plains. The arrival of European settlers, the decimation of buffalo herds, and forced relocation to reservations threatened the Kiowa way of life. Their world shrunk, their freedom curtailed.
In 1867, a treaty was signed, the Medicine Lodge Treaty, and they lost their freedom to just roam.
Yet the Kiowa endured. Today, their legacy lives on in Oklahoma, where over 12,000 enrolled members preserve their language, traditions, and cultural heritage.
We're sequestered on a reservation in southwestern Oklahoma onto about 2.8 million acres, a large amount of land.
Yeah.
In the face of adversity, the Kiowa people remain principled, unwavering guardians of their history, culture, and the timeless beauty of the Great Plains.
The Kiowa today are a proud nation, and this is a tribute to their heritage. It's a vital, vital tribe. This dates to 1890-1900.
Adorned with traditional elegance, this Kiowa dress, made by a Kiowa woman, is made from soft deer hide, carefully tanned using ancient Native American methods.
Been softened and prepared with the mashed up brains of deer that would provide both acid and lanolin.
Intricately adorned with trade materials, this dress showcases the Kiowa's skillful blend of cultural exchange and traditional craftsmanship.
The glass beads are from Europe. The ribbons may well have been from France. I'm not certain about that, but Europe. These shells are from Africa.
Long, flowing fringe, a distinctive Kiowa trait, elegantly adorns this traditional dress.
If it got wet, the hide sheds water quickly and it evaporates. But in addition, when the lady is moving, the fringe moves, and it's just very, very poetic.
The Kiowa's exceptional beadwork and design expertise are evident in this exquisite dress, crafted by a highly skilled artisan. As a unique, individually owned piece, rather than a communal clan object, its value lies not only in its beauty, but also its historical significance. A fair retail valuation would be...
Value this at around $7,000.
Whoa.
It's highly desirable. I can't tell you how much we enjoy seeing this.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do.
This work on paper by Ukrainian-American avant-garde artist Alexander Archipenko dates to 1935. This work belonged to her godfather, an art collector who was a bachelor until 62. Archipenko is known for modern sculpture, but his two-dimensional works highlight his innovation. In this piece, Archipenko uses geometric shapes to evoke a dancer's movement.
It's a work executed in gouache, pastel, and pencil on paper, which is what we would generally refer to as mixed media.
The minimalist style of the dancer distills motion and anatomy into pure form. The composition uses soft pastels, a common technique to evoke a dancer's grace and movement. This piece merges cubism with lyrical abstraction, with limbs suggesting poise and capturing vitality. Archipenko's paperworks are less known than his sculptures, but are valuable to collectors. With its captivating blend of form and movement, the appraiser valued the item.
It's worth in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $40,000.
Okay, very good.
It was left to her by her mother-in-law, who brought little treasures that were stored in the attic for years. This 1722 early American button mold reflects the craftsmanship and needs of early settlers. Button molds like this were essential for producing handmade buttons during this period. This button mold highlights the self-sufficiency of settlers.
They were the types of buttons that had a hoop on the back that the thread would go through. I tell you, they're actually really as rare as hen's teeth.
Here is a large button that cast 3 smaller pewter buttons, with the eyes still visible. Buttons were made from metal, bone, wood, and horn using molds before mass manufacturing. It bears the owner's name, Josiah Miller, 1722, with his initials and the date on the bottom. These objects were functional, holding clothing together while also being decorative. This reflects the colonial barter economy, where handcrafted buttons were exchanged for necessities. Its historical significance and craftsmanship led the appraiser to value the item.
Conservatively at auction, $600 to $800 would be an estimate on it.
A collection linked to Chicago journalist Mike Royko features memorabilia and personal letters revealing his career. Royko, a Pulitzer winner, was known for his wit and focus on Chicago's daily life and struggles. The letters reveal Royko's relationships and interactions with readers and journalists. These letters offer an intimate glimpse into a public figure, usually known only through his columns. These columns highlight Royko's wit on Chicago's social issues, politics, and culture. The titles, such as Yes, It's His Kind of Town and You Can Bet on Sinatra, he wrote for major Chicago publications, becoming a voice for social justice, politics, and daily life. These documents reveal Royko's personality and opinions, humanizing him.
Talks about his tough reputation and that no one else can prove that type of allegation.
These items highlight Royko's impact on journalism and his influence on future columnists. With the provenance of the item, the appraiser valued it
at least $15,000. And I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if this letter sold for more than that.
I'm gonna faint. I really.
Are you all right?
Oh, yes, give me a seat. Oh, man. Are they kidding me?
It was acquired from a gentleman in London who owned a poster gallery. This iconic image from King Kong depicts King Kong scaling the Empire State Building. This Batrack photo by Irving Batrack highlights his work in Hollywood's golden age. The film King Kong was a groundbreaking achievement in visual effects and storytelling.
Climax of the film where Kong is just trying to get away, and he's the famous moment where he's swatting at the planes who are trying to attack him and dislodge him from the Empire State Building.
The black and white image captures the drama of King Kong gripping the skyscraper amid circling airplanes. The giant ape in New York City symbolizes the wonders and dangers of the modern world. This photograph is original and packed with detailed information on its back. This is a larger 10.5 by 13 3/4 inch matte vintage print. The back features Batrach's stamp, a renowned photographer for the film. The Batrach photo is a lasting reminder of early Hollywood's innovative spirit. The appraiser valued the item for its historical significance.
Conservative estimate would be $5,000 to $7,000.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. Just amazing.
Tables are more than furniture. They are vessels of history. The guest presented a table.
The story in the family is that it was made by my great-great-grandfather in Concord, Massachusetts, Cyrus Benjamin. It's been in the living room of my mother's house and my house.
It is believed to be made by their great-great-grandfather, Cyrus Benjamin. The appraiser noted that family history suggested it was made around 1860 to 1870. However, the appraiser revealed that the table was actually made about 60 to 70 years earlier, around 1800, before Cyrus Benjamin was born. The table, a demi-lune card table, was likely made in or near Concord, Massachusetts. The appraiser described it as a federal period piece with country craftsmanship. They pointed out details like the contrasting quatrefoil and wavy line inlay. The table's estimated auction value.
auction purposes at $3,000 to $5,000.
That will shock my brothers and sisters.
The guest was surprised and pleased by the appraisal. The appraiser highlighted the importance of artists doing their homework in preparation for their work. Edward Volkert, known as America's cattle painter, visited slaughterhouses for accurate cow anatomy. The guest was surprised to learn about Volkert's research methods. The guest inherited the painting from a great-uncle who lived in Cincinnati. The great-uncle and his wife were art collectors and contemporaries of Volkert.
Born in Cincinnati in the end of the 19th century, 1871, and started off as a portrait artist, but later went on to paint landscapes.
Volkert was born in Cincinnati in 1871 and initially focused on portrait art. He later transitioned to landscapes and pastoral scenes.
The American Impressionist style at work. Here we have the broken brush of the American Impressionist style, but different from the European Impressionists, they always kept the form.
Volkert honed his American Impressionist style at the Old Lime Art Colony. His technique featured characteristic broken brushwork while maintaining strong forms.
Spoke about how he was able to bottle sunshine, which was such a wonderful thing to say about an artist. And I think you can see the great light.
The painting showcases solidly rendered cows against a delicate sky. The appraiser noted that one critic praised Volkert for his ability to bottle sunshine. The guest expressed a long-standing appreciation for the painting's vibrant color. The appraiser estimated the painting's value at auction to be between $12,000 and $18,000.
Very contented cow.
To say the least.
A forgotten Father Christmas figure discovered in an attic could be worth thousands. The guest shared that their grandfather bought an old home in the 1940s. While repairing the attic, he found a figure wrapped in tissue paper. He tried to return it to the original owner, but they claimed not to know anything about it. As a result, the figure remained in the family. The appraiser noted that it is a German Father Christmas figure made around 1910. They remarked that it is in very nice condition, despite some discoloration on the face. The appraiser estimated its retail value.
He has a retail value of $2,000 to $2,500.
Wow, wonderful.
The guest shares the story of their great-great-grandmother, Nancy Jane Cochran, who moved from Tennessee to Dallas. At the age of 16, she created a beautifully crafted sampler, showcasing her skills and discipline. After marrying, she and her husband were drawn to Texas by the promise of rich cotton farming. Tragically, Nancy was widowed just before the Civil War, facing immense challenges. She managed to keep the cotton and gin production running while raising 6 children.
Now, first of all, 16 is a little bit late to be doing a sampler. A lot of girls were married by then.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
The appraiser notes that 16 is somewhat late for a girl to be making a sampler. Most girls at the time were typically married by the age of 16. The sampler features her maiden name and the date November 18th, 1833.
Oh, okay.
Go over like a lead balloon today, wouldn't it?
It includes a charming floral border and an intricately depicted house. The photographs of Nancy and her children enhance the collection's historical value. Individually, these items could be worth $2,000 to $3,000 in today's market.
Your photographs, they're going to be $2,000 or $3,000. Southern samplers.
The sampler itself could fetch between $6,000 and $8,000 at a well-publicized auction. When combined with historical documentation, the overall collection is valued around $15,000.
I talked to several of my colleagues, and we felt like that when you added everything up together.
The guest humorously remarks about the potential interest from their cousins. This recognition highlights the significant worth of their ancestors' legacy. The story of Nancy Jane Cochran is not only a family history, but also a piece of local heritage. The guest shares that the pieces belong to their father's family, tracing their lineage back to about the 13th generation, with the first member arriving around 1630. This ancestor settled in Providence, Rhode Island, contributing to a rich heritage of seafarers. The guest recalls having these items since childhood, cherishing their family history.
These were probably done after 1830 and before 1850.
The appraiser identifies the pieces as carvings related to the USS Frigate President and the British ship Endymion, likely created between 1830 and 1850. A notable reference is the Bowen's Naval Monument, published in 1830.
The Endymion and the USS President. An interesting thing that I noticed is at first I thought these teeth were probably carved by 2 different carvers.
in Boston, which features a scene similar to one of the carvings. The appraiser points out that while the main scene is beautifully executed, there are unique additional details and an intriguing inscription that provide context about the two ships.
But the greatest thing I think about this tooth is when you turn it over, there is this wonderful inscription.
Initially, the appraiser thought the teeth were carved by different artists. However, they now believe the main scene was crafted by one skilled carver, with additional folk art details added by another, less formal artist. A flag, an American eagle, a depiction of home, and an exotic plant. The estimated retail value of the collection is $25,000, leaving the guest in awe. The guest revealed that their grandfather acquired a remarkable item around 130 years ago after relocating from Sorel, Canada to Massachusetts. He often vacationed in upstate New York, Vermont, and Canada. Initially believing it might be a salesman's sample, the guest later felt that the craftsmanship indicated something far more significant.
It is a model canoe. It's meticulously made to scale. It originated in Maine.
The guest mentioned a valuation at Sotheby's about 10 to 15 years ago.
Both are Algonquin people. In relationship to their material culture, the biggest things they ever made were their lodges and then their canoes.
Estimated between $3,000 and $4,000. The appraiser clarified that this was not a salesman's sample, but rather a meticulously crafted model canoe. Originating in Maine, it is believed to have been made by the Penobscot Micmac Indians between 1870 and 1890, with a preference for the Penobscot.
There's a double volute coming up out of the canoe.
This canoe, measuring about 5.5 feet long, is larger than typical models. A notable star symbolizing the 4 sacred directions and a volute representing fiddle ferns.
The canoe by itself would have, I think, a retail value of easily $4,500.
The estimated retail value of the canoe alone is approximately $4,500, with an overall value of around $5,000 when including the accessories. If insured, the value could rise to about $6,500. In a thrift store find that caused quite a stir, a Gretsch Duojet shines, its value a blur. A guest bought a guitar in a thrift store in Jackson, Wyoming, for about $299 in 1978 or 1979. The appraiser says it is a 1955 Gretsch Duojet. The guest is surprised to hear this. The appraiser explains that it was made to compete with the Gibson Les Paul. He adds that the guitar's body is chambered, giving it a different sound. Gretsch used a special finish called nitron, making it scratch-resistant. The chrome parts are in great condition. The appraiser notes that this guitar can sell for...
Gretsch like this would sell for just under $5,000.
Yeah.
$4,700 pretty easily.
Yeah.
It's just a classic example of the 50s rock and roll guitar.
Yeah.
Imagine inheriting a buck of hours from your mother-in-law. The guest explained she collected medieval manuscripts and later found pages from books of hours. Her interest grew, leading to this complete book of hours. The appraiser excitedly notes its historical significance.
And I think this binding is probably around the late 17th century, kind of 1680s, probably French. It was very high-end work.
She believes the binding is from the late 17th century. The binding is made of real gold and Morocco leather, a high-end work. The appraiser describes the manuscript as containing handwritten hymns and illuminations. It is crafted from parchment, made in a scriptorium by monks. The guest is amazed by the detailed craftsmanship and age of the manuscript. The appraiser estimates its age to be from the 1470s, likely also French. She values it in the retail market.
Retail market, I would expect it to sell for more like $40,000 to $60,000 on a retail market, and it's very well preserved. So it's a treasure.
Oh, thank you so much.
Imagine owning a painting of your great-aunt's ranch by Maynard Dixon from 1913. The guest shares that the painting has been in the family for generations. Dixon stayed with their relatives at the ranch in eastern Oregon. The appraiser notes that Dixon is a major figure in Western art. He describes Dixon's style as simple lines and bold colors. The painting is an original oil-on canvas, signed by the artist. The guest believes it was a gift, not a commissioned work. Dixon was known for his unique personality and cowboy attire. The guest compares their photograph to the painting to show changes over time. They guess the painting's worth.
It's never been appraised that I know of. If I had to guess, I'd say maybe $7,000 plus or minus $5,000.
The appraiser reveals its actual auction value.
An auction estimate in 2022 would be $50,000 to $80,000.
My goodness. That's a surprise.
The guest is amazed by the painting's worth and its significance. Imagine inheriting a portrait of your ancestors from 1826, preserved through generations. The guest reveals their connection to the portraits.
Well, I am directly descended from these two. They were my great-great-great-grandparents. They were painted in 1826.
They received the portraits 20 years ago from a distant relative with no descendants. The portraits had been passed down through multiple family branches. The appraiser is excited, noting the striking folk art style of the paintings. They were painted by the Guilford County limner, an itinerant artist in North Carolina. The bold, direct faces and vivid colors are hallmarks of the artist. Despite being fragile watercolors, the colors remain as vibrant as when painted. The appraiser values the portraits.
I feel that a conservative estimate on this pair at auction would be $20,000 to $30,000.
Whoa.
The guest is thrilled, but says they will treasure the portraits rather than sell. The appraiser suggests insuring them.
You should insure them for $40,000, at least.
I'll be sure to do that.
Imagine having a family member who restored significant artworks and collected unique pieces. The guest shares that their uncle worked on Hearst paintings and bought items from Phoebe Hearst's collection. He gifted the guest a painting of a native Alaskan finial from a clan crest helmet. The appraiser identifies the finial as either Tsimshian or Tlingit. These tribes excelled in wood carving and ceremonial regalia. The finial indicates the lineage of the individual wearing the helmet. The appraiser describes the finial's killer whale fin and fierce features. The holes at the back would have had tufts of human hair. The guest estimates its age to be between 1890 and the early 1900s.
Somewhere between 1890 and perhaps the first part of the...
The appraiser suggests it may date back to circa 1830. He praises its sculptural quality and vibrant colors, valuing it.
I would value this in the neighborhood of $30,000.
Oh my God!
and that would be a good value.
Yes.
Elegant silhouettes, intricate patterns, and timeless beauty, vases have captivated human imagination for centuries. From ancient rituals to modern decor, these delicate vessels transcend function, becoming canvases for artistic expression, symbols of cultural heritage, and testaments to the enduring power of beauty. Now we are graced with the presence of an exquisite vase, its delicate floral motifs dancing across its surface with effortless elegance. According to the guest, he acquired this vase from a dealer before the digital age. Without identifiable markings, tracing its history was a challenge. A breakthrough came when the guest discovered an article in Antique Trader, featuring vases remarkably similar to theirs.
These monumental vases made for the 1904 Louisiana Purchase World Fair.
Following the article's lead, the guest contacted the museum and shared images of the vase, prompting experts to verify its origins.
And they said it was one of the vases that had been lost or gone.
The 1904 Louisiana Purchase Exposition, also known as the St. Louis World's Fair, was a major international exhibition held in St. Louis, Missouri from April 30th to December 1st, 1904. It was one of the largest and most influential World's Fairs of its time. To counter European dominance in decorative arts, Americans sought to demonstrate their own capabilities at the fair.
If anything this big had been made in American ceramics in a decorative sense prior to the 1904 exhibition.
This stunning artwork, personally crafted and signed by Wigley, embodies the creative essence of Trenton Potteries, a pioneering collective of visionary ceramics manufacturers. Although they couldn't match the exceptional quality of Minton, a renowned English porcelain manufacturer, Trenton Potteries skillfully emulated the continental porcelain style popular during that era.
It looks like French Limoges or perhaps Bavarian porcelain, and they've done a spectacular job.
Wigley lavished his expertise on the entire piece, adorning it with exquisite gilding that showcases his exceptional skill.
It's beautifully gilded here with this border, incorporating these roses. It was called at the time the Rose Vase.
Exceptional quality and perfect preservation define this stunning vase.
It looks like it was put in a crate, sent to the 1904 exhibition.
Embodying the pinnacle of American optimism, this vase would command a retail value of...
would be $25,000.
Wow.
Today.
I'm very, very happy with that.
A presentation cane is a decorative walking stick or cane that is typically given as a gift or reward to commemorate a special occasion, achievement, or honor. These canes are often intricately designed and crafted with high-quality materials, such as wood, metal, or ivory. The Taunton, Massachusetts area is believed to be the origin of this exquisite presentation cane. This cane is elegantly engraved with the name of a paternal great-grandfather of the guest, gifted by his son. Additionally, the cane features an inscription of the presentation date, May 1873. Surprisingly, this cane's origins trace back to San Francisco, not its previously thought origin. Presentation canes transcend mere objects, representing bonds between loved ones and milestones achieved, each carefully selected and engraved. These canes evoke memories of joy, gratitude, and love. As tangible keepsakes, they connect us to our past, inspiring future generations. This cane is beautifully accented with a piece of gold quartz. The auction valuation for this extraordinary presentation cane is conservatively placed at
at auction for between $2,000 and $3,000.
Wow, incredible.
A masterpiece of light and color, this maritime painting evokes the essence of the sea. This painting, lovingly passed down from her mother, holds a special place in the guest's heart. With her sailing expertise, the guest uniquely understands the painting's maritime majesty.
To me as a sailor and somebody who loves being outdoors, the sky and the water, the two crew members are leaning out, hiking, trying to help keep the boat level.
The brilliant brushwork of Eric Sloane, a legendary figure in American art, brings this piece to life. In a bygone era, when America's history was etched into the wooden beams of ancient barns and the billowing sails of tall ships, Eric Sloane emerged as a master storyteller. With brushstrokes of nostalgia and words of wit, he transported generations to a forgotten America. An America of rugged beauty, quaint traditions, and timeless values.
American painter who was born in 1905 and died in 1985 was very much known for painting New England barns and rustic scenes and footbridges and that sort of thing.
Sloane's artistic journey began as an apprentice to the renowned illustrator N.C. Wyeth. But it was his own fascination with America's past that fueled his creative fire. He roamed the countryside, capturing the essence of weathered buildings, rusty tools, and the sea's majestic power.
He was born in New York. He worked on the East Coast, but he also had a home near Santa Fe. This is an original oil on masonite.
The guest's family acquired this artwork through a serendipitous encounter between the guest's mother and Eric Sloane in 1952, facilitated by her great-grandfather's social connection.
Could I interest you in a painting? And my mother happened to be there, and my great-grandfather turned to her and said, Julia, pick out which one do you like? And this is the one she picked out.
Through his art, Sloane preserved the soul of America, its folklore, crafts, and legends. His paintings and illustrations invited viewers to step into a simpler time where community and tradition reigned.
Started out as an early sign painter, traveling the country, ultimately comes back to New York and is enrolled in the Art Students League.
Eric Sloane was born Everard Hinrich Sloane, and Everard was later changed to Eric, which became the name he used professionally and personally throughout his life.
This painting, while not dated, is very clearly signed on the lower right, and it's titled, and the title, Sea and Sky.
Notably, this artwork is signed with the initials of Eric Sloane's birth name.
Everard Jean Hinrichs, E.J.H., above the name Sloane.
The exact date is unknown, but the painting is thought to have been created between 1945 and 1950. From an appraisal standpoint, this exceptional maritime painting's value, for auction and insurance purposes, is estimated at.
The auction estimate would be in the range of $15,000 to $20,000. I would look to a figure of around $35,000 for insurance purposes.
The guest brought a glasswork piece gifted to her mother by Dale Chihuly in 1965. Dale Chihuly, born in September, is an American glass artist, entrepreneur, and very well known in the field of blown glass. At the time, Chihuly was a teaching assistant at the University of Wisconsin's art department. A family connection was formed when the guest's sister, an art student, invited Chihuly to Sunday dinner.
Well, he's very charismatic, and he was a major force. When he would come out for dinner, we would just all be blown over. And I remember my mother saying, "That young man will go far." So it was, and she was not mistaken.
During his visits, the guest recalled discussions about Chihuly's emerging glassblowing facility in Madison.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited you got this today. This is what I've been waiting for. It's amazing.
The family even witnessed glassblowing in progress at the facility.
This is an early piece. This is an early piece he actually blew. He had an accident, you know, and so he lost an eye, and he also had another accident where he hurt his shoulder. And as you could see when they were blowing glass, that's a really heavy duty with lots of heat, and got to be very strong to do that.
Following a severe accident, Chihuly shifted from hands-on glassblowing to designing, and today he collaborates with skilled glassblowers to bring his visions to life. Characteristics like trails and pinching dated the piece to circa 1965, and its asymmetrical design reflected Chihuly's experimental approach during this period. After a meticulous evaluation, this exquisite glasswork was appraised at
auction today, I would estimate it at $2,000 to $3,000.
I'm amazed. That's very surprising.
I would write to his studio.
Okay.
And just kind of introduce yourself, confirming do you remember me? Do you remember this piece? Send a picture of the piece and see if his studio will confirm the piece.
Okay.
At the age of 14, our guest traveled to Europe with his parents to visit a friend of his father's. The guest was gifted this piece by its creator, Alexander Calder, in 1969 during his stay in the south of Paris.
I saw him working in his shop on something similar to this, and when he presented it to me, it occurred to me that he may have actually been making it at the time.
Calder, born in 1898, is considered one of America's leading sculptors of the 20th century. He was an engineering student at the Stevens Institute of Technology in New Jersey. Additionally, this sculptor purchased an old farmhouse in Roxbury and converted it into a studio. There are pieces of metal and wire scattered about, which he uses to create his sculptures.
And I was a 14-year-old boy getting around, and I happened upon his studio and peeked in and watched him working. He had Parkinson at the time, but when he worked, his hand would be still.
Furthermore, this piece serves as a foundational work in the artist's collection. The sculpture is well crafted and features both a stable and a mobile component. This item was handmade, created by carefully cutting it out of a piece of tin. It is well painted and signed, with the maker's monogram pressed onto the side. One noteworthy aspect of this piece is its portability, which makes it easy to counterfeit. Therefore, a certificate of authenticity is required to sell this sculpture.
Submitted to the Alexander Calder Foundation. They authenticate pieces.
Moreover, the item is small, and it has not been confirmed whether a larger version exists.
This could be a maquette for a very large piece. It would require research to find out if there is a larger version. You might find that information from the Calder Foundation itself. They have scrupulous records of all of his work.
Considering the rarity and compact size of this piece, in a gallery setting it would be valued at.
This would be $250,000.
Wow. Jeez, that's amazing. I mean, it's probably worth more than that to me, just in memories, but that's spectacular.
Yeah.
We're looking at an iconic jersey worn by a legendary baseball player in the 80s, Reggie Jackson, the five-tool superstar who won 5 World Series titles, cementing his legacy as one of baseball's greatest. Our guest, the lucky winner, received this jersey after entering a drawing at a local event.
Did you have to pay to enter the drawing?
Nope. All I had to do was put my name on a piece of paper and drop it in the box. When I won, they called and said, "You got the jersey."
The labels and stitching confirm that this is an authentic, game-worn jersey. Our guest didn't realize the jersey's significance until now.
Okay. They just said, "Enjoy."
Excellent.
I said, "Oh, thank you."
Sure.
This relic features Jackson's name, his signed number 44, and the New York Yankees insignia.
Jackson and his number 44 signed. We also have the Wilson tag with his size, and everything seems to be just perfect.
His number 44 is also on the back, leaving no doubt that this is an authentic 1980 Reggie Jackson New York Yankees game-worn jersey.
All this great wear, including a couple stains here at the bottom. That's nice. We like game-worn jerseys. We like people's dirty laundry.
The black band and stripe on the sleeve also confirm it's from the 80s, honoring Thurman Munson, Jackson's teammate who tragically died in a plane crash in 1979. Though Reggie's team didn't win the World Series in 1980, he still had a remarkable season, winning the Silver Slugger Award and hitting 41 home runs. This jersey is a rare piece of baseball history, and today at auction it would cost.
An auction estimate for this jersey would be $8,000 to $12,000.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Huh. Wow.
Yes.
The guests presented a painting that had been in their family for generations, hanging in their grandparents' home, their mother's, and finally in their own living room for the past 20 years. They identified it as a work by Fern Coppage. The appraiser acknowledged the painting and pointed out a price tag revealing it was titled December Mist, originally purchased for $100.
I did notice a price tag and with a title that says December Mist, $100. Fern Coppage is one of the best-known Pennsylvania impressionists.
They emphasized that Fern Coppage is a well-known impressionist, making this piece a quintessential example of her work.
I think it's gotten a little dark with age.
Okay.
This would have been painted probably early on when she came to Pennsylvania. So she came to Pennsylvania in 1920.
The appraiser explained that it likely darkened with age, noting that it was painted early in Coppage's career after she moved to Pennsylvania in 1920. Before that, Coppage studied at prestigious institutions, including the Art Institute of Chicago and the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. The appraiser confirmed this aligns with Coppage's relocation to Pennsylvania, highlighting her passion for light and color. They noted that the painting is approximately 100 years old and discussed the accumulated dirt that obscures its colors. Despite this, they pointed out the intricate attention Coppage paid to the varying hues in the snow, which would become more vibrant with cleaning. The appraiser mentioned that the painting is an oil-on canvas and likely retains its original frame. They praised Coppage's typical subject matter, especially her affinity for snow.
Typical kind of subject matter that she loved. She loved the snow. She would even go out and paint in a bear skin. She would paint en plein air, which means paint outside.
Right.
She was very much into the reality of the moment.
And shared that she often painted en plein air, capturing the essence of the moment. They described her association with the Philadelphia 10, a group of progressive female artists who supported one another in a predominantly male art world. The appraiser concluded by stating that her market value has been on the rise, recommending an insurance value of no less than $120,000.
Her market has been doing very well recently.
Oh.
I would insure this for no less than $120,000.
Oh, really? Wow. Wow.
About 8 years ago, a guest had the incredible opportunity to meet Maya Angelou, a person he'd admired since college for her poem Phenomenal Woman.
And I just fell in love with her from my time when I knew of her back in my college years for her poem Phenomenal Woman.
His wife is also a huge fan. He met her in Winston-Salem not long before she passed away. After her death, there was an auction of her estate in Kennersville, North Carolina, which surprised him because he didn't know she lived there or worked there. While going through the auction catalog, he came across the Spring-On Award. His mother was part of the first graduating class at Springen High School in Washington, D.C., so he found that connection interesting. Digging deeper, he discovered that the first recipient of the award...
So I delved even deeper. And the first recipient of this award was my fraternity's founder, Dr. Ernest Everett Just.
...was Dr. Ernest Everett. This particular award is 10-karat gold and holds immense significance. It's a prominent recognition given by the NAACP to outstanding African Americans.
Is 10-karat gold, and I looked at who won this award, and it's a prominent award given by the NAACP to African Americans. Oprah Winfrey has one. Sidney Poitier has one.
The appraiser chimed in with recognition of the names, noting the importance of the award. He was willing to bid as high as necessary, thinking it would go for at least $5,000, but it only went for around the gold price of $1,100. He had forgotten about a second award they give, known as the walk-around version, which can be replaced if lost or stolen. A friend of his attended the auction and purchased this for him for just $80, presenting it to him on his 50th birthday. For auction estimates on the walk-around, the appraiser mentions prices ranging from $3,000 to $5,000. Given the importance of the award, he estimated it could fetch between $20,000 and $30,000 at auction.
An important award. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go in the $20,000 to $30,000 range.
The appraiser suggested that if the guest plans to keep it, he should consider insuring it, recommending a value of around $50,000.
If you're keeping it, which is the plan, then you probably want to insure it.
Yep.
Something I would probably want you to insure it for around $50,000 to protect yourself.
Wow.
The guest discovered the paintings in their parents' house while exploring a closet. The parents had purchased the home from a cousin. When asked about when they found the paintings, the guest mentioned it was at the end of 2019.
I found them in my parents' house in a closet. They had purchased the house from a cousin who had affiliation with people in Florida.
Do you recall when you located them?
It was the end of 2019.
Upon discovering them, they realized these could potentially be Florida highwaymen paintings. The appraiser confirmed the guest's suspicions, stating that both pieces are by Willie Daniels. The appraiser noted that despite the name highwaymen, there was one woman among the original group. All of these artists were African American, and the movement started in the 1950s.
Those artists were all African American, and in the 1950s is when this all started. And they weren't considered serious artists. They weren't allowed to be displayed in commercial or institutional galleries.
They faced challenges in gaining recognition and were often excluded from galleries. Instead, they sold their artwork from the trunks of their cars, often going door to door and pricing their pieces between $10 and $30.
Newton, who was one of the original highwaymen, and so those younger artists that came along later are considered the second generation. I'm not exactly sure how many of those artists there are, but Willie Daniels was one of the more prominent members.
Willie Daniels, born in 1950, moved to Georgia, Florida as a child. He has been inducted into the Florida Hall of Fame of Artists alongside the original 26. Although these pieces are not dated, they are likely from the mid-1980s. One of their works was even featured in the White House by Michelle Obama. Both pieces, as a pair, would likely sell for between $2,000 and $4,000 at auction.
I would say at auction, both of these pieces as a pair would sell for between $2,000 and $4,000.
Really? I had no idea.
Yes.
A guest brings a simple buck, only to discover its astonishing connection to American history. The guest presents a buck filled with letters from prominent abolitionists inherited through their father. The appraiser explains that the buck, titled The Centennial Record of Free Will Baptists, 1780 to 1880, documents the 100-year anniversary of the Free Will Baptist Church. The guest shares that the letters in the buck are from abolitionists who were invited but unable to attend the event in Ware, New Hampshire. One of the letters is from Frederick Douglass, who praises the church for supporting the cause when others shunned it. Another letter is from Harriet Beecher Stowe, who speaks of the church's influence on her writing. There's also a letter from future President James Garfield, who was too busy running for office to attend. The appraiser emphasizes the rarity of Douglass's letter, estimating its value.
At auction, I would put the Frederick Douglass letter, if you just had it by itself, the Frederick Douglass letter would be $50,000 to $70,000, right?
The Stowe letter is valued as well.
The Harriet Beecher Stowe, also very popular, would be $3,000 to $5,000.
The appraiser then values the whole collection.
So at auction, the entire book, I would say $55,000 to $75,000.
The guest is surprised at the incredible value of the historical artifact. The guest shared that the painting once belonged to their father, who passed away, leaving behind 6 similar artworks. Each child received one from their stepmother. The appraiser inquired about the artist, to which the guest responded that the artist's name was Cahoon.
Primarily with mermaids and sailors. Some of them had hot air balloons. He was born in 1910. He died in 1982. This is a mid-20th century work.
The appraiser explained that was a Cape Cod artist recognized for his whimsical, nautical motifs reminiscent of the 19th century, often featuring mermaids and sailors, as well as hot air balloons. Born in 1910 and passing away in 1982, Ralph Cahoon spent most of his life on Cape Cod. This particular painting is a mid-20th century oil on masonite, presented in what appears to be the original Victorian frame, typical of Cahoon's style.
With sailors, and then we have an American flag. And we're either in it looks like the Antarctic, but it could have been in the North Pole. This is a nice, cool picture.
The vibrant artwork features 13 mermaids, a sailing ship with sailors, and an American flag, set against a backdrop that could suggest either the Antarctic or North Pole. The appraiser expressed enthusiasm upon seeing the piece, recalling experiences of living on Cape Cod and hearing stories about Cahoon.
We have a sailing ship with sailors, and then we have an American flag. And we're either in it looks like the Antarctic, but it could have been in the North Pole. This is a nice, cool picture.
who was remembered as a kind-hearted individual with a great sense of humor. The painting was described as a delightful, folky creation, and the appraiser estimated its auction value to be between $30,000 to $50,000.
And I think a good auction estimate would be $30,000 to $50,000.
Great. Good price.
The guest presented a handkerchief printed at the time of the death of George Washington, featuring eulogies from soldiers, sailors, and citizens, capturing all the tears of America.
It has the eulogies of the soldiers, sailors, citizens, all the tears of America. It was in my husband's family.
It had been passed down through her husband's family, and as a Christmas gift, his parents had it beautifully framed, making it a cherished possession for the past 50 years. The appraiser noted that the handkerchief dates back to 1799 and is created using copperplate printing.
We've had it about 50 years.
This is from 1799. It is copperplate printed. The copperplate printing technology.
A technique that was highly developed in England, suggesting it was likely printed there. The appraiser emphasized the profound emotional resonance of the piece, highlighting the deep mourning and admiration for Washington at the time of his passing. Due to its rarity and exceptional collectability, the appraiser estimated that it could fetch between $6,500 and $7,000 at auction.
If this were to come up at auction, because of its rarity and extraordinary collectability, it would sell for between $6,500 and $7,000 at auction.
Wow, that is wonderful.
Walter Anderson, born in New Orleans, spent much of his life in Mississippi. Although he gained fame posthumously, he was a unique and fascinating artist known for his unconventional methods. His family also produced pottery, and today there is a museum in Mississippi dedicated to his work. The appraiser acknowledges that this relates to shearwater pottery. The guest confirms that this is when they acquired the piece, and recalls that they paid around $75 to $80 for it. The appraiser notes that many of Anderson's works are not signed, including this one. Occasionally, he would use a monogram or initials, but signed or dated pieces are rare. The appraiser finds Anderson to be a compelling figure.
You can see this work embodies that energy that you see in his watercolors. And in this one, you get a glimpse of his working method. It looks as though he perhaps uses a little bit of pencil line here. You can see traces of the graphite here.
Representing the visionary, driven artist who sought a profound connection with nature, often isolating himself on Horn Island, living a frugal life. Anderson dedicated himself to creating art, believing in its transformative power.
He wanted to create work that had mass appeal, but was well produced, that a lot of thought had gone into, and that was affordable to many people too, which is why he would produce pottery.
He aimed to produce work that was appealing, thoughtfully crafted, and accessible to a wide audience. This philosophy influenced both his pottery production at Shearwater and his lino cuts, which allowed him to share his art more broadly.
I think he's a fascinating individual. He really epitomizes the visionary, driven artist, and it was very important for him to be both in and of nature.
The piece in question showcases the energy typical of his watercolors, with visible pencil lines suggesting a preliminary sketch. Anderson often outlined his compositions before applying paint.
Through Shearwater, and I would produce lino cuts as well, which was a good mass medium to get his work out there. You can see this work embodies that energy that you see in his watercolors.
The appraiser estimates it could reach between $10,000 and $15,000 at auction.
I think this one at auction would reach probably $10,000 to $15,000 or so.
Very nice.
A guest shared that he had purchased a collection of items from a friend who had passed away. The friend's wife intended to leave the items to her son, but since he wasn't interested, the guest offered to buy them. Initially, the guest was drawn to a gun that fascinated him, even overlooking the other items in the collection, such as moccasins. When asked about the price he paid for the gun, the guest revealed it was $3,500. Although he knew it was a Winchester, he had no idea of its actual value. The appraiser identified it as a .73 Winchester, describing it as a typical...
And did you know what it was at the time?
I know it was a Winchester.
Well, it is a .73 Winchester, kind of a beat-up old gun. It's kind of a typical doctored-up .73 Winchester.
Okay.
Somewhat worn example that had been altered to look like it was used by Native Americans. The appraiser explained that the modifications, including rawhide coverings and decorative tacks, were all fabricated, detracting from its authenticity.
They would cover them with rawhide for repairs. and they put some tacks in them, and this is a little medicine wheel. Unfortunately, that's all fake, and basically it's a 73 Winchester.
He assessed the value of the items. The Winchester would likely fetch between $600 and $800.
The 73 Winchester in this condition probably would bring about $600 to $800.
All right.
A small Lakota knife scabbard would bring about $150 to $200.
Right.
Your little knife scabbard would probably bring about $150 to $200.
And the 3 pairs of moccasins could also reach around $150 to $200. An Iroquois bag was similarly valued between $150 and $200.
And the Iroquois pouch would probably bring about $150 to $200. These are auction values.
He mentioned that he had only encountered one similar piece in 12 years of appraisals. The appraiser estimated its market value to be between $8,000 and $12,000.
But that particular bag on today's market would probably be worth about $8,000 to $12,000.
You're kidding.
No.
Oh my God.